The Jews aren't taking away TikTok, but conspiracy theories that say otherwise are coming for democracy itself by Yair Rosenberg. Today's video is my commentary about an article in The Atlantic that I think is misleading, quite honestly, sinister. The entire world knows exactly why the US is trying to ban TikTok. James Lee declared on March 16th to his nearly 100,000 followers on the social media platform. I do appreciate him rounding up to 100,000 because it makes me seem a little bit more important than 97,000. And even though it's insinuated that I'm not only a conspiracy theorist, but also a raging anti-Semite, that's not the part that bothers me because A, by rejecting mainstream narratives, which if you watch my content, I do all the time, so I am by definition a conspiracy theorist, I'm okay with that. And B, according to the US House of Representatives, along with all pro-Israel advocacy groups, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and I've criticized Israel plenty, so I would to them by definition be considered an anti-Semite, which I am also okay with. So this isn't really about me, it's about this sinister article in which they claim to be worried about the safety of Jewish people and the breakdown of democracy, when in fact, it's articles like these that prove that they don't care at all about Jewish lives or democracy if it means allowing the Zionist project of Israel to continue to do whatever they want to do without criticism and without impunity, and part of that is banning TikTok. The entire world knows exactly why the US is trying to ban TikTok, James Lee declared on March 16th to his nearly 100,000 followers on the social media platform. We're all thinking it. Israel is trying to ban TikTok, the influencer Ian Carroll told his 1.5 million followers last month. A foreign government is influencing the 2024 election, the leftist podcaster and former Bernie Sanders press secretary Brianna Joy Gray declared on X in March. I'm not talking about China, but Israel. Recent polls show robust public support for TikTok's ban or sale, and for years, Gallup has found that Americans see China as the country's greatest enemy. I wonder what causes that. In short, Congress has strong electoral and political incentives to act against TikTok. But spend some time on the platform itself, and you'll discover a very different culprit behind all of this: Jews. First off, polls have shifted a lot in the last year. Huge drop-off in support of the TikTok ban that just passed. But more importantly, regardless of whether or not the conspiracy is true, none of us were even talking about the Jewish faith, but rather we're talking about Jewish nationalism, Zionism, the state of Israel.
Is the TikTok ban about China or is it about Israel?
We were all thinking it. Israel is trying to buy TikTok. Has anyone looked at who brought the bill in the first place and who pays him? And would you look at that? His top contributor that got him elected in 2022 was AIPAC with $44,000 contribution.
There's also this Time magazine article that just came out. Why TikTok needs to be sold or banned before the 2024 election. The article barely even mentions China or election security. Almost the entirety of it focuses solely on this issue right here. Another chart from the article. And the ironic thing is that, yes, it's true. A foreign government has infiltrated the US, except it's just not the country they want you to think it is.
The more honest title would probably be Conspiracy Theories Say Israel is Trying to Take Away TikTok. I'll go with that because, quite honestly, none of what I have to say has anything to do with the Jewish faith and everything to do with Israel and Zionism. In fact, TikTok is the only widely used social media app in the world that isn't controlled by pro-Israel advocacy groups. There's actual proof of this. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which is supposedly a civil rights group, but some say it is actually really an intelligence agency in disguise, has openly bragged about how they control algorithms of both Facebook and Google.
We work with YouTube to get them to change their algorithms. We work with Facebook on trying to use a redirect method, so when you search for Holocaust as a hoax, you get directed to like a Yad Vashem page.
We opened a center in Silicon Valley back in 2017. And the woman who runs it, she's an ex-Facebook executive. I have software engineers and data scientists working at ADL. We're monitoring all this stuff, and we're working with all the platforms, by the way, Google and YouTube and Meta and Twitter and Reddit and Steam and Amazon, all these companies, from like Apple to Zoom, we work with all of them, okay?
You know the saying, you want to know who's in charge? Figure out who you can't criticize. And ever notice how we can bash America, left, right, center, but we can't speak a word of criticism about Israel and what they're doing in Palestine without being called an anti-Semite, without being compared to Kanye or Nazis. But here's what they're saying behind closed doors. I'm going to play you a clip of a leaked audio of Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the ADL, and what he had to say about TikTok.
And so we really have a TikTok problem, the Gen Z problem, because again, like we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like fast.
I don't hear anything about China, do you? But it is a convenient scapegoat. And guess what? They got it done. The same bill that gave Israel $26 billion in weapons and bombs also includes a ban on TikTok. But that's a conspiracy, right? One about Israel, though, not Jews. Rosenberg writes, simply put, none of what is happening to the social media platform is new. Neither is the tendency to blame Jews for the world's problems, but that doesn't make the impulse any less dangerous. Many understand anti-Semitism as a personal prejudice that singles out Jewish people for their differences, much like other minorities experience racism. But anti-Semitism also manifests as a conspiracy theory about how the world works, alleging that sinister string-pulling Jews are the source of social, political, and economic problems, and this is the sort of anti-Semitism that tends to get people killed. That is this whole article's thing. It's conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Because I do agree, there is and has been a lot of real violence against Jewish people. The attack at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, that is a real thing. And also, nobody can deny that European history is marred in anti-Semitism. Centuries of Jewish people being kicked around, expelled from just about every country, the stuff that happened in the 1930s and 40s, we all know it. But what I disagree with, and I'm only speaking for myself as a non-Jewish person, just an observer, it seems to me that they are saying Israel and Jews are one and the same. But is that actually true? Because I think I know plenty of Jewish groups who don't agree with this. What about their voices, their opinions, their lives?
Let me tell you something. The only reason Jews being targeted is because Israel wrongly calls themselves as a Jewish state. They want people to view Jews as an extension of their state. We shouldn't pay paying their bills. But for them, using Jews as cannon fodder works with flying colors.
So for what reason would they want to do that? Are they trying to protect Jewish people? Or are they trying to tie the actions of a government that is out there bombing tens of thousands of babies, starving millions of people to death, deliberately killing aid workers and journalists, and then lying about it and saying everything is self-defense or an accident? To tie those actions to the entire Jewish faith, what do you think that does? It creates anti-Semitism. And Zionists do this with no regard, in my opinion, no regard for the Jewish diaspora, because they don't actually care about Jewish people. Their whole thing is to make any critique of Israel an attack against Jews, because without Judaism, without hiding behind Judaism, the Zionist project wouldn't work. Without Judaism, the state of Israel would not be able to hide behind a religion in order to justify their nationalistic fervor from the river to the sea. Israel is all you will see. Yeah, that is an Israeli phrase. They need to hide behind Judaism to justify their military atrocities, as well as the uncomfortable truth that the most liberal and most democratic country in the Middle East is also an apartheid regime. That is the game they play. Anti-Semitism isn't just bigotry towards the Jewish community, the black civil rights activist Eric Ward once told me. It is actually utilizing bigotry towards the Jewish community in order to deconstruct democratic practices, and it does so by framing democracy as a conspiracy rather than a tool of empowerment or a functional tool of governance, Rosenberg writes. Once again, this is more conflation between the Jewish community, the Jewish religion, and the pro-Israel advocacy groups that pose an actual real threat to American democracy. Like I said, if it's anti-Semitic to point out the corruption in our democracy, then by golly, I'll wear that badge. And how many of you know this book, The Israel Lobby, written by two distinguished professors, John Mearsheimer at the University of Chicago and Stephen Walt from Harvard University? Democrats and Republicans alike fear the lobby's clout. We can count on well over half the House, 250 to 300 members, to do reflexively whatever they want. In 24 hours, we could have signatures of 70 senators on this napkin. Does that sound like democracy to you, or is it maybe a conspiracy? At the very least, it's corruption. And evidence of these kinds of backroom deals is what erodes democracy, because it causes everyone to lose faith in the electoral process and say, screw it, they don't listen to us anyways, let's just go dictatorship. It's the defense of these corrupt practices and the fact that groups like AIPAC, which basically is a foreign lobby group that now brags about how their support is what elects members to Congress, while at the same time hiding behind the Jewish religion, that is what contributes to anti-Semitism, right? We have a great legacy publication like The Atlantic pretending to care about American Jews, American democracy, but guess what? Their whole publication has been hijacked. The editor-in-chief of The Atlantic is literally a former IDF soldier, veteran in the Israeli military, so where do you think his alliance is going to be? To me, they're basically using Jewish people, American Jews, Jews around the world as, to put it in their words, human shields for what Israel has been doing for 75 years. They'll say that these two groups, Israeli and Jews, are one and the same, but that's part of the lie. And a lot of people, even those, especially those in the Jewish community who have the courage to speak out about these kinds of things, they'll tell you the same thing. This is a tweet by Peter Bernard, who is the editor-at-large of Jewish Currents. Quote, "I don't think the Jewish advocacy organizations are as interested in protecting actual Jewish students as they are in squashing anti-Zionist speech, even if the anti-Zionist speech comes from Jews themselves." Yeah, you call me a conspiracy theorist, an anti-Semite, anything you want to do, but I'm going to keep going and keep speaking out against behaviors, actions, policies that are corrupt, that threaten democracy, that threaten humanity, irregardless of color, creed, class, gender. And that is my rant for the week. Thank you for listening to it. I know not everyone's going to agree with this one, but hey, let's talk. Respond in the comment section below. You guys are on the pulse. Tell me what you guys think. And also, if you find my videos to be valuable, helpful, all I ask is that you like it, share it with somebody you know, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and as always, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one.